Hello and welcome to another episode of Starside Chat. I am one of your hosts, Aaron, and with me as always is Zach. How's it going, Zach?
Pretty good. I keep an eye on the 10-day forecast, looking for like a precipitous drop in temperatures. And I saw our first like 70-degree day coming up. And I mean, as we're recording this, it's been like, I don't know. We've had like a little bit of late summer humidity, I guess, which has not been what I'm after.
Yeah.
I keep looking for those fall temperatures. I don't know why I always start off talking about weather, but and that has been your forecast. Let's move into news.
Well, the news of the week is probably the biggest thing is PlayStation Sony announced that they were going to have a like 7-minute or like a 4-minute technical presentation of the PS5 by Mark Cerny, and everyone was like, oh, this is going to be the PS5 Pro reveal. And sure enough, it was. They have revealed the PS5 Pro, the mid-generation refresh. I think we talked about it last episode, actually, that it was going to have those 3 little lines on it. And in fact, it did.
Yeah, just like a horizontal racing stripe.
How much would you pay for the PS5 Pro, Zach?
I mean, you couldn't ask for $700 for it. That would be just insane.
You couldn't also ask for $800 if you also include a disk drive.
Now that would be crazy. They definitely couldn't do a thing like that.
What are your thoughts on this? I've only seen negative reactions.
Yeah, I mean, for good reason. It is too expensive. So they did price the thing at $700 without a disk drive. And the disk drive you can buy separately. It adds on like, I guess, another $100 to the price tag. The main thing about this is that they wanted to make it so that you didn't have to choose between performance mode or graphics mode. And they're trying to make just the console powerful enough to make you not have to make that choice anymore. But it didn't sound like that would necessarily go away as an option. I don't know about you, but when I play my games on a console, I don't typically put 2 screens side by side and then run the old PS5 and like a newer console and then zoom in to make sure that I can tell the difference. But I feel like that's what this is like in the smartphone world back when they were making a push for like 1440p or like 4K screens. And it was just like, if you were pixel peeping and you had 2 phones side by side, one that was 1080p and the other that was like 1440 or whatever, maybe you would tell the difference, but nobody uses a phone that way. And nobody's going to use a PlayStation 5 that way.
Well,
so it's just like,
I think that's the part of this reveal. They released like a 9.5 minute thing where Mark Cerny's talking about all this stuff. That the part of this video that is the most receiving the most criticism, I think, is the part where they do the side by sides, because to my eye,
you can't tell the difference.
No, it looks identical. There's that famous graphic of, I think, like a stone bust, like a Greek statue made in computer graphics. And so like the first one is like, well, this is like 16 polygons, and it obviously looks like, you know, kind of blocky. And then the next one is like, I'm getting these numbers wrong, but the next one is like 200 polygons, and it looks a lot better. And then the next one is like 300 polygons, and it looks great. And then the one after that is like 3,000 polygons, and it looks identical, basically, because there's diminishing returns. Like at some point, you're getting to a point where it doesn't matter that there's more polygons, basically, because the human eye, our screens, or whatever technology level we're at, can't detect a difference. And unfortunately, it seems like we are here in that instance.
Yeah, it does feel like we're getting there. I know you can look at specifically games like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, where it did look a little bit soft when you had it running in performance mode.
Yeah.
And maybe there's like an improvement to be made there. But also, like, a big part of the criticism for this is all the games that they were showing that you would get like an advantage performance wise on the PS5 Pro were games from like the PS4 generation or like early PS5 releases.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I'm not going to pay you $700 to be able to play a game I played 4 years ago in like a higher resolution plus, performance mode type of a thing.
Yeah, they really need to just like Last of Us Part 2 was a great game, but like they got to cut it out because it's like happened already. We don't need another, look at Last of Us Part 2 again. Like it's been there. But that was, I think, the first game they showed is like, check out like aiming in Last of Us Part 2, which is like a PS4 game, frankly.
Yeah. I mean, the same with Ghost of Tsushima. I mean, that game looks great and I loved playing it, but I'm not going to like buy a PS5 Pro so that I can go replay it, but at a, slightly higher resolution when I'm in like performance mode. You know what I mean? You would really have to be pixel peeping to like be able to tell a difference there. So I think they think people replay games more than they actually do. Yeah,
that could be true. And it's so this also, they released a number of games that this PS5 Pro is going to work with. Or I mean, obviously you can play all games, all PS5 games, but they announced like specifically like 10 or 15 games that will have these enhancements that are like taking advantage of the PS5 Pro. So it's like, the other thing that is a problem with this is that we are like kind of midway through the console generation, and speculation is that by 2027, it's going to be the next generation. So like, you're really only getting this for,
another 3 years.
Yeah. Like, is it worth it, I guess?
Well, so he kept talking about the big three, which is, I thought was a weird way of putting it, but he kept saying it over and over again. Mark Cerny during this presentation, but he was referring to larger GPU, advanced ray tracing, and AI-driven upscaling. And I think those are big like buzzwords in the tech world or in the console world, but like he said, you reach a point of diminishing returns where does it really look that much better?
Yeah.
And to not have anything new or upcoming to sort of sell people with, I find it hard to believe that people who already own a PS5 are going to shell out the extra cash to basically trade in for this. Maybe if you don't have a PlayStation 5 already and you want one, you maybe just pay a little bit extra to get this one. But I mean,
I would not.
Because I have to think that the base PS5 is going to go on sale, and they made a slim model as well, so you could get that one. I don't know. It just seems like a really weird thing. And this is not like, so when the Switch, when Nintendo released the Switch OLED and everybody kind of mocked it for being not an upgrade, it just sort of is a new model that has like a larger OLED screen, but all the internals were still the same. That was like, okay, nobody needs this. But then you see it in person and you're like, oh, okay. No, this is actually kind of nice. So let me trade in my old one for this. Plus, they didn't like up the price by like $200.
Yeah. The price is egregious.
You're not going to have that like real world, okay, I'm seeing this in person now. I get it. Let me trade in my old thing to get this new thing. I don't think that's going to happen with the PS5 and the PS5 Pro.
I agree. It's a weird thing that I wonder if eventually a year from now people will be like, why did that happen?
And I think the PS4 Pro, there was a better case to be made for that one.
That I agree with, because one, my PS4, like especially when I was playing like Ghost of Tsushima, really, I mean, obviously I probably needed to like clean it and get the dust out of it, but it sounded like an airplane was taking off when I was playing parts of Ghost of Tsushima.
But there was like a value add where on games like Ghost of Tsushima or God of War 2018, you didn't have the option for a performance mode. You just played it in 30 frames per second. Yeah. Whereas when they released the PS4 Pro, you suddenly had this option to play in performance mode, which is what, as Mark Cerny said in this presentation, like 3/4 of the people who play on PlayStation are picking when they have the option. So most people do want to play in performance mode. And And so PS4 Pro sort of gave you that option finally. So I never did upgrade to it, but I got why people would do it. Whereas with the PS5, I don't think that's enough of a difference to just say, well, there's less of a compromise between performance and graphics mode now.
Yeah.
And to up the price by that much is just, I don't know. Maybe we're beating a dead horse, but I think this was an insane reveal that is not going over well.
But a reveal that is going over well is that there will be more free Astro Bot coming.
Yeah, so we'll talk maybe a little bit more about Astro Bot later in the show and what we're playing and watching, because I have finished the game, but I would happily play more of this. And the fact that it is free and it's coming later this year, there's going to be more levels and more bots to rescue and all of that. This is very good. Astro Bot is, it would not surprise. We talked about how I thought Black Myth Wukong could win Game of the Year. I think it's now up against Astro Bot.
Wow.
And it's like a weird, how do you pick? But I can see Astro Bot having the sort of, I always bring up that one co-op game that I always forget the name of, but that game just seemed like it had like a bunch of momentum late in the year and people kept talking about it, and it sort of rode that wave of like positive feedback all the way to Game of the Year. I feel like Astro Bot could do something similar here, but
I wouldn't hate it. It seems like a great game. I feel like it. I haven't played it, but I really want to, and I feel like it. Even without playing it, I feel like it probably deserves to be in that circle.
Yeah, you should try to find a PS5 base model on sale and play this game, because it is very good.
Maybe I will.
So now to some not so good news. There was another round of layoffs at Microsoft. 650 employees being let go from its gaming division. This comes sort of hot on the heels of the previous round of layoffs, where there was like almost 2,000 people let go from like Activision Blizzard and Xbox. So I don't know what's going on over there, but it seems like a bad time to be working at a Microsoft-owned company.
Yeah.
I feel like they are probably regretting that Activision Blizzard purchase, because it seems like maybe they are realizing that they're not in a position to pay that off. And it's not having the immediate returns that they would need to not let that many people go. And speaking of weird situations where people sort of were let go, but they let them, Perna Interactive just resigned this last week. I didn't get to look into this.
Yeah, so I read a little bit about this.
Yeah, so you talk about it.
So this happened because I think they wanted to spin off into their own thing. They're Annapurna Interactive, and so that's Annapurna as a whole does a lot of stuff. They're also known for like movies and TV and whatnot. They were going to be partnering. So this also, the main thing to know about this is that it's not really affecting Remedy, because a couple weeks ago it came out they're partnering with Annapurna to make like basically a Control-averse, an Alan Wake-averse like television and movies, and that's not Annapurna Interactive. That's like the movies and TV branch of Annapurna. And this also does not affect just Control 2, which is, being worked on. They've come out and said, we're all good, everything is fine. What this does affect, though, so I guess the reason this happened is the team at Annapurna Interactive wanted, I think, to spin out and do their own thing. And so the president, who I guess his name is Hector Sanchez, he was going to, they were in talks with their owner, and their owner is this like rich person who I think her name is like something Ellison.
Megan Ellison.
Yes, Megan Ellison. She is some rich girl who her dad owns like Skydance and is a billionaire who's always buying stuff. And I guess they were in talks with her to spin off and do their own thing. And she was basically like, no, I'm in charge. I own everything. And so they were basically like, all right, well, we're all leaving, so peace out. And so they're all going to, I guess, go do their own thing. I think the speculation is that they're going to try to make their own studio or developing organization or whatever. So Annapurna will live on, but it's likely that they'll just restaff entirely, and it will be a totally different Annapurna Interactive, I should say. Again, this is totally separate from the other Annapurnas, but yeah, that Ellingson person, I guess, was just too headstrong and too much of a rich person, and so everybody left.
Yeah, Annapurna Interactive made games like Stray and Outer Wilds, which did very well. So I guess that team is going to go make their own studio now, separate to Annapurna, and who knows what they'll make from there.
Hopefully,
maybe,
they can
like
all
you said,
band together and do that.
Yeah, like you said, they'll probably try to restaff Annapurna Interactive, and I guess they will still have the rights to those franchises that they've made. But it's possible that you could get a Stray 2 or an Outer Wilds 2, but it would look very, very different because a completely different team would be making it. Now, so I don't think that's what people want, but
I want to talk about something fun, Zach.
Okay.
My favorite thing to talk about on the podcast is what's going on with the Switch 2. What will it be? When will it come out? What will its gimmick be? And there was a rumor on apparently some Discord, and I don't know how legitimate this rumor is, but somebody posted a rumor that the Switch 2 is going to get announced early next month, so early October, and they're hearing that the base price is going to be $400, and more interestingly than that, it's going to come in 2 different SKUs, but we don't know why, which is interesting because the Switch in general, when it launched, was just one thing, and obviously you could get a Pro controller and other stuff like that, but supposedly there will be 2 different types of this new Switch, and what could that mean? I have no idea. I mean, maybe one of them is going to be OLED. Maybe one of them will be like a Pro version that has more power. That seems unlikely to me because I feel like Nintendo is very much about like all of our developers are building for the one platform, and that's why all of our games are so solid. So who knows if this is real? But I will make everyone recall that the Switch was revealed, I believe, October 19th or October 20th. They did a thing. I saved it in my phone, actually, is how I know the date, because the day before it was going to happen, this was still when it was called the NX, because we didn't know what it was going to be. The day before it happened, Nintendo posted a thing that was like, hey, join us for the reveal of the NX tomorrow. And there was like a little picture of Mario, and he was behind a curtain. He was kind of like pulling the curtain back. And then the following day, we got that iconic trailer that I've talked about on this podcast many times that I love to watch of the Switch reveal. That was amazing. And then, it came out in March. And so if this also is revealed in October, I think it's very likely that it would be launching in March.
Early next month announcement and a base MSRP of $400.
Yeah.
With 2 different SKUs. So, I mean, that seems like it makes sense because the Switch OLED, I think, is at $350. So I think that makes sense as like a possible price point. It still comes in under the base model PS5 and Xbox Series X.
Very true.
So again, I think that does make sense.
What could these 2 SKUs be? What's your speculation?
That is a good question. If they did want to, I don't see them doing the 2 different like power differentials, you know what I mean?
I agree.
You were just talking about.
I think you're right.
But if they did that, I could see it being maybe like a portable version that could also dock, and then like a dock only version. But I feel like they would do the other way around, where they do a version like the Switch that can dock or be played portably, and then only the portable version. So maybe they right out of the gate go with like a Switch 2 and Switch 2 Lite, where it's only portable.
Or what if it's this? What if, speaking of the dock, what if it's compatible with the current dock, So if you already have a Switch, you don't need a dock. So one of them is just the Switch 2, and the other one is the Switch 2, and it includes the dock to the TV. So that would add like, whatever, $50 or whatever.
Yeah, that could be. I almost wish that whatever they do for the dock next time, that it will somehow upscale in a better way.
Yeah.
So maybe that means you do need a new dock for this one. But yeah, maybe they're just like, well, we got enough people that have docks out there already from our previous console. So let's do a version that comes with just the console and not the dock, and people can just plug into what they've already got. But now that I am saying it out loud, I do think it's very likely that they come out with some version of like the Switch with the dock and then the non-dockable, like portable Switch Lite type of a situation.
Yeah.
So I can see that being the case. Because, I mean, not just because that's what they did this generation, but they almost always like to have some sort of portable version of their console. So if they did like a portable only version, that would not surprise me.
I'm so curious to know. I'm so excited for it. I can't wait. I also feel, and I've said this before, but I think that Hollow Knight could be a launch title for this. Because it's been rated. I feel like it was like we talked about this in I think April or early June. The game has been rated in multiple countries, and again, you can't add content to a game that's been rated, or it needs to be re-rated. So like I feel like it's really wrapping up, and it's still radio silence from Team Cherry, and this is I think something that like they could definitely be waiting for, because like if you launch with a console and there's only like 4 or 5 games for that console, you're definitely, I mean, I bought 1-2 Switch for some reason, just because there were like 5 games for the Switch, and I played it maybe 3 times. So
what was that weird co-op thing that
Snipper Clips?
It was like, Snipper Clips. I feel like everybody jumped on that bandwagon just because it was like one of 3 games available for the Switch at launch.
Yeah, I mean, like, my prediction for this is that there's that rumored Donkey Kong game, and I don't know if that's going to be a launch title. My dream is that they launch this with Mario Odyssey 2, although I don't know how realistic that is. But I think they have, we've seen Metroid, so that could be a launch title. I don't remember if they had a release date on that trailer or not. I don't think they did.
I'm betting on that being a launch title for Switch 2.
They need at least one tentpole. They need a Breath of the Wild to launch with, but then they also need sub games that you can only play on. Well,
I was gonna say I don't think that Silksong will be exclusive to the next console generation for Nintendo. That's a good point.
I don't think it's going to be exclusive now that you say that. So that maybe is a reason why it won't be the case.
But like, I feel like you will be able to play that on current gen hardware.
Yeah, there's no reason you wouldn't be able to. But exciting. We were talking about it because you and I think we've talked about this on the podcast before. When the Switch came out, you and I caught a late night showing of Logan, and then we went over to a Best Buy and both got our Switches, and it was a delight. Actually, it was very cold, but after we got the Switches, it was great.
Yeah, it was terrible waiting in line outside in like early March.
Yeah.
And we were freezing cold, and my feet were going numb because I had not proper socks or footwear for that. But we did finally get in there. I got the Switch, my copy of Breath of the Wild, and a Pro controller. And then I went home, brewed up a pot of coffee, and played all night.
Yeah, I did as well. I didn't do the coffee part,
was great.
But yeah, it was great.
And last time, I did not pre-order. We just had a friend who worked at Best Buy who told us that they were planning on having more than the number of pre-orders available for the console. So that was what sold me on, let's just go and see if it's possible that I can get one. This time around, I'm probably not going to do that. I'm going to try to pre-order in advance so that I know that I have one. But
an exciting time. I'm excited for next month to see. It could be I mean, it's as we're recording this, it's mid-September, so it could be that by this time next month, in less than a month, we'll have this reveal, which is very exciting to think about.
Yeah, very exciting. You don't think they will hold out till Game Awards to do some sort of big reveal?
Well, now I don't know. I mean, if this room, that was my initial idea, because Jeff Keighley, especially this week actually, because they announced the date of the Game Awards, he has been all over Twitter being like, hey, it's the 10-year anniversary. We're 10 years old. This is going to be one you don't want to miss. He keeps tweeting about like, this show is going to be crazy. You do not want to miss this 10th anniversary. Which you gotta, I mean, he's obviously his own hype man, but you gotta think he's gonna try to pull out all the stops and get something people want. And so my initial theory was, yeah, he's gonna get the reveal of the Switch 2, whatever it's gonna be called. I also don't know what it's gonna be called.
He'll get the reveal of the Switch 2 and a hot drop of Silksong.
Didn't he get the reveal of the PlayStation 5? Or did he not? Am I wrong about that? Or no, he got the reveal of the Xbox, didn't he?
I do not remember.
I feel like there's precedence for him revealing a console, just the console. Like
Would that have been over Summer Games Fest though?
Maybe.
I don't remember.
It was so many years ago. But I don't know. Now I don't know what. I mean, because if this rumor is true, then he's not going to get this reveal. So I don't know. But another thing I wanted to talk about, somebody approached Tony Hawk, the famous skateboarding guy, and he said he's in talks with Activision again. Activision obviously made all those old Tony Hawk games. So there could be a new Tony Hawk game on the way, and I am curious to know if you're interested in this. Did you play old Tony Hawk games?
I did not, no. But
I did.
They were such a big deal in like that certain era that they were being released.
I don't care about skateboarding because I think it would be too hard for me to do, and it's fine to watch. I've never really watched it professionally or whatever. I think it's at the Olympics, but I don't really care. But these games I used to love because in a way they're kind of like a Mario game because you're dropped into a zone. Usually it's just like a place, like, you know, Rome or whatever. And there's a bunch of interesting things in the zone you have to do. And later games got more into, like, it's very similar in regards to Mario, where like in Mario 64, you would drop into a zone, you have to do one thing to get the star, and then you kind of reset the zone. You jump out of the painting, you jump back in. Similarly, in early Tony Hawk games, there was one thing you had to do in a zone. You would get out, go back in, do it again. But then, just like Mario, it progressed to where you are in the later games just like in this zone and you can do a bunch of stuff and you're never jumping out of the zone. You never have to like go and come back. And so I did, it's kind of like a platformer, except you're not like a fun little animal. You're just like a guy on a skateboard. And there's a bunch of interesting things you can do. And so I had a lot of fun with these for some reason. I don't know why I picked them up, or like I don't think I ever bought one. I think we only ever rented them, but from Blockbuster, to date myself. But I think this is cool. I would play a new Tony Hawk game especially towards the end of those games. They kept getting crazier and crazier, and like more zany stuff would happen where like an alien would be around and you'd have to like impress the alien by doing something. And then you would get an alien skin that had like zero gravity or whatever. So I'm into this. I think this is a cool thing.
Yeah, there's definitely like our generation that growing up, these were like a really big deal then. And so I think it makes sense to want to try to bring them back. Not just because you have like people our age that grew up playing them that would probably buy it, but also you can maybe sell a new generation on them. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I actually don't know what Gen Z feels about skateboarding. I feel like that's more of a millennial thing. I don't know that Gen Z cares about skateboards. I guess I'm not up on what Gen Z is doing with their spare time, but back in like the 90s and early 2000s, I remember hockey being a big deal because of the Mighty Ducks. And I remember skateboarding being a big thing because of like these Tony Hawk games. But yeah, I don't know if that's still the case these days. If that was just like a weird thing from our generation, but
we shall see. This week also marked the 1.0 launch of Satisfactory, which is a game I think I played. The last thing I played was when they added tubes. So it's been a while, and they released a 1.0 launch trailer, and man, have they continued to add stuff. It's a feature-rich game. So if you were waiting to play Satisfactory, now is the time. I think they will continue to add things, but it's officially like all of the milestones are there. There is a way to complete it fully. They've added so much stuff. Like watching this trailer has made me really want to dive back in. It's like a very satisfying game. It's very chill. I always say it's like Minecraft with goals, basically, where like Minecraft is great, but you're really just kind of playing. Obviously, you can like defeat the Ender Dragon or whatever, but you're really just like chilling out. And in this, you're also kind of just chilling out, but also there are things to do. There's things to optimize. There's factories to build, new ways to get around. There's so many different kinds of vehicles and trains and cars and all types of things. Also, they revealed at the very end of the trailer that it is going to be coming to console, which is exciting. And they just said soon. But this is a game that I would love to play on console, actually. I have it on Steam. Or no, actually, I think I have it on Epic Game Store for some reason. But yeah, Satisfactory 1.0, very excited. It will be coming to consoles at some point, but 1.0 on PC, and I highly recommend it if you're someone who likes Minecraft, because I think it is a good iteration on that. Not as much mining, but much more things you can build.
Yeah, this I think the art style a little bit reminds me of No Man's Sky, but
yeah,
it makes me think of that. It is a little bit like you're looking at a planet and the you can see planets in the distance and there's like weird alien creatures going on. This seems like a way more fleshed out version of like the types of mining that you can do in No Man's Sky.
Yeah,
just without the space travel. So if you're into that sort of thing.
An interesting thing about this game that I think people don't realize is that the world that you're on is not randomly generated. It's always the same world. And so you can optimize. Like there are a couple different starting areas when you start the game, but you can really pick, like plan stuff out prior. Cause like the ore deposits are always going to be in the same places, I believe. So that's like a known quantity. Like you look at this game and you think, oh yeah, whenever you start a new world, it's going to generate a new world, but that's not the case.
Yeah, it looks interesting. Yeah, maybe once this comes to console, I'll check it out, but I have not played this as of yet.
Our last news item is just a TikTok that I saw. And there's some sort of Lego thing happening where a bunch of people show off their Lego stuff. And someone perfectly recreated Stardew Valley. Like the whole map not the whole map, because I don't think the desert is there. But they perfectly recreated a lot of the map of Stardew Valley, a 1-to-1 scale. Or not 1-to-1. But I mean, it's like pretty cool if you look at it. All the buildings and like the characters are there. And it looks like this is in like looks like this is the spring version of the town, actually. But very intricate and cool. Obviously, it's not something you can buy because it would be, and I think it's a crazy amount of pieces. And a lot of them are custom. But I just thought that it was wild to see the full map in actual, like in our world, basically. So I wanted to shout it out.
Yeah, it is cool to see. I have to say, you should definitely click on the link and watch the video, just because if you've ever played Stardew Valley, it's cool to kind of see the full map sort of revealed like this in such a intricately designed sort of way. But on that note, let's talk about something that's coming out this week. The Plucky Squire.
Yes.
I am very much excited about this. As we are recording this, I guess I'll say as this podcast is going up, it's coming out this week. I believe on the 17th, so that makes it Tuesday. It is coming to PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium. I don't have that, but I will probably buy this game one way or another. And I'm very much excited about it. Weirdly, they are doing like a physical version of the game, but that physical version is not coming out until like sometime early next year.
Oh.
But you can play it right away if you want to buy the digital version, or if you just sub to PlayStation Plus Extra. The PlayStation Plus tiers are really weird, and I don't quite have them straight in my head. I think you can have PlayStation Plus, which is the one that just gets you like online multiplayer and their like handful of games that you can add to your library every month. And then there's Extra, which is a little bit more expensive, and you get a little bit of a games catalog with that. And then there's Plus Premium, which gets you also like a large selection of like classic PlayStation games. But so Plucky Squire is going to be available on Extra and the Premium tier versions, which I guess is cool if you happen to be subscribed to that. But we were trying to look it up because it seems like something that should be on Game Pass, but it does not seem like it's coming to Game Pass. Maybe it will eventually, but I don't know about you, but I'm hotly anticipating this game.
Yeah, I think it'll be really fun. I have loved all the little vignette or featurettes they've posted about it. I'm excited to check it out if it, in fact, does come to Xbox.
I think it is going to be on Xbox. I just don't know if it's coming to Game Pass is maybe the only thing. It's also going to be on Switch. So there's that. Oh,
yeah. Maybe I'll do that.
So yeah, I will probably play that this week, and maybe that's what we'll talk about next week. In the meantime, let's talk about what we've actually been playing and watching this week.
Zach, I have written the letters DK. And
now, I assume this means that you've been playing an old Donkey Kong game.
That is what I wanted you to think. But you
got me.
In fact, I have been watching a show that I used to watch as a child. I've been rewatching it. I've been rewatching Dr. Katz. Are you familiar with this show?
No.
Dr. Katz was on, I watched it on Comedy Central back in the day. There was a late night block on Comedy Central that I loved to watch. It was Dr. Katz, Duckman, and The Critic. And I loved Dr. Katz and The Critic, but I did not care for Duckman because I thought it was too sad. But Dr. Katz was a genius idea for a show. It was a real guy named Jonathan Katz, who I think maybe was a therapist at one time. And the show it has an iconic way that it looks because it is made in that squiggle vision, which also kind of like early seasons of home movies are in the same style. But basically, he is a therapist, I think living in New York or Boston. And he has a son, like a 24-year-old son that lives with him in an apartment. And the son is voiced by H. John Benjamin, who now is super famous for Bob's Burgers and a bunch of other things. But it's the two of them. And then Dr. Katz will go into the office and talk to comedians of the day. And they're like his patients. So basically, it's an excuse for comedians of the day to do their bits, to do their jokes on a television show. And they're all animated, basically. And it's great. I love it. It's the music is very soothing to me. It has these like real jazzy riffs that are always playing during the interstitials. And the premise of the basic path of the show usually is like, you know, Dr. Katz and his son will have like some interaction in the morning that, you know, will be finished at the end of the episode. And then the middle part of the episode is just like him talking to two different comedians, and it kind of switches back and forth between the two, and they do their bits, and they're like, you know, we like see the animations of them happening or whatever. But somebody uploaded the first 3 seasons of this, which took place from 1995 to 1997, to YouTube, and it's just an 11 and a half hour YouTube video of every episode back to back to back. And I love to watch it. I'm about 4 hours in, and I can't. It's just like such a delight to put on. It is like the quality is not great. I'm jealous. My brother has the box set of DVDs, and I watched a couple of them when we used to live together. And the quality of those is like very good. But I'm having to watch them like super compressed on YouTube. But I love Dr. Katz. It's like such a comforting show to watch. And H. John Benjamin, it's like very improvisational as well. Like the conversations that Dr. Katz and his son H. John Benjamin have are like very, very like they're kind of talking over each other and
sort of off the cuff a little bit.
Yeah, very like the patter is very good and believable.
I was going to say, it almost sounds like what today would have been just a podcast.
Yes, but, and in fact, they did do a podcast of it. But I never listened to it because this was like maybe 8 years ago or something. It was an Audible exclusive, and I didn't want to get Audible. But I think they did like a 26-episode season that was just audio. And I think H. John Benjamin, and also his receptionist is played by Laura Silverman, who is Sarah Silverman's sister. And so she's like the other character we see all the time. But yeah, everybody returned from the original show, and I think actually when I complete all seasons of this, because I don't think I saw a lot of the later seasons, because I don't know, went to school or something. It was back in the 90s. But once I complete all of these, I think I am going to try to track down that Audible series and listen to those, and I'm very excited to do that.
Yeah, I might check this out because it does sound interesting to me. But yeah, it does.
Give it a couple episodes. There's a specific episode, and actually, this is not relevant for our listeners, but for you specifically, I will send you a clip. A guy used to be on, an old comedian who I think is still alive, named Stephen Wright, and his episode is like burned. I didn't realize how much it was burned into my brain until I got to it. But that episode specifically, I really, really enjoy. I'm going to send it to you. And you can check that out. But yeah, I love the show.
And you also have written down Jackbox.
Yeah. Zach, this week, a new Jackbox came out. It's the Naughty Pack of Jackbox.
Uh-oh.
Which, my friends and I have a weekly Dungeons & Dragons game that we play. It's not Dungeons & Dragons. We're actually playing Blades in the Dark right now. But, prior to that, like before we play that, we usually will sometimes like play a small game beforehand to get like ready. And for a long time we were playing Drawful 2, which is available on Steam.
That's
you don't
very
have to
fun.
It's very fun. You don't have to buy the Jackbox for it. You can just buy Drawful 2. This Naughty Pack includes a dirty, very irreverent version of Drawful 2. And that's the main reason I bought it. And it is sitting at like overwhelmingly negative on Steam, unfortunately, because it is like, I think it's like $19 and you only get 3 games. And so people are bummed about that. But I really only wanted the Drawful 2, and it delivers, I have to say. Sometimes it is a little bit too like forced irreverence. I feel like it's like when people play that like Cards Against Humanity game and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe what I'm even saying. But in general, I'm happy with my purchase. If you are someone who loved Drawful 2, but like it got kind of old, like you started repeating prompts or whatever, or you got too familiar with like how like the robot versions of people would make their answers, this one is great. And also the other thing about this, and I don't know if they've added this to Drawful 2 because it's been a while since I've played it, but this new version of Drawful 2, or I think it's just called Naughty Drawful or something. This one adds a back button. So if you're drawing something and you mess up, you can now press a back button and your last thing is erased, which was not possible in Drawful 2. If you messed up, typically if I ever messed up in Drawful 2, what I would try to do is just cover the whole screen in whatever color I was doing and then draw on top of that, because there was no way to erase.
Yeah.
But this adds that ability, which is that in itself is just like such an innovation for this game. Such a quality of life upgrade.
Such a small thing, but yeah, makes a big difference.
So I don't know. They're getting a lot of backlash for this being $19 and only having 3 games. And hopefully they will realize that Drawful is the best one and just release Drawful on its own. So maybe wait and see if they release this version of Drawful on its own, and then it'll be cheaper. But if you can't wait to check it out, I'm happy that I purchased it. The other two games, I played one of them and it was not great. It was a game where you debate. It actually was terrible. Actually, it was a game where they show you a bunch of icons, or they show you a bunch of things, and then you circle one of them, and then somebody else circles one of them, and then you sort of have to debate, and then the audience picks who get it. It wasn't good. And then the other one I have not checked out, but yeah, Jackbox the Naughty Pack, if you're interested. Again, I would say maybe wait and see if they split the games out, because right now they're getting a lot of backlash. But great to have more Drawful.
Yeah, it's probably because people just want Drawful, and they have to pay $20 to get it, and then it comes with these other two games that are not good. But
exactly, yeah.
But no, the last time I played Drawful, I think it was $10 on Switch.
Yeah,
and
it's cheap.
A couple of years ago, over the holidays, I bought it and just played with family, and it was hilarious to play.
Do not play this new one with your family, I would say.
No, yeah. It does not sound family friendly to play with. But
what have you been playing?
So I did finish Astro Bot. I platinumed it.
What?
Yeah, which is it was very fun to do. We talked a little bit about it last week, how it's not a super long game, but it feels like it's a pretty decent length. And obviously they're adding some free DLC to it, which is great. But yeah, so much fun to just go through the levels and try to find all the bots and to get all the puzzle pieces and everything that are the different collectibles in each of the levels. There are some hidden levels that you can find as you're you sort of go into there. I believe 5 or 6 different universes that you go into as sort of your overworld map, and then each of the levels are sort of laid out. You can, as you're flying your ship around, going from different, level to level, you can actually find different things in there to unlock additional levels, which is great. A thing I realized that I was negligent about in talking about this game last week, I didn't actually talk about the haptics of the controller as you're playing the game, because obviously Astro's Playroom famously was sort of tech demo for the controller itself, but also kind of a fun little game. This it brings a lot of that stuff back, where you still have it's still doing a lot of stuff with the haptics and the adaptive triggers, and you can do some motion control stuff where you're as you're flying into a level, if you just kind of hold the controller to the left or right, you can sort of influence the direction that he steers the little controller glider thing. But also it uses the speaker. Some people seem to not like that. I don't have a problem with it, where you'll get different sounds coming through the controller. And I think it just adds another element to it. And it definitely, I don't know, it makes you wonder, why are more games not doing more with the capabilities of the controller? Because it seemed like they sort of set this precedent, hey, look, we've designed this controller to have all these features, and here's an example of what you can do with it. And I guess I don't expect third-party games to do that much with it, because if they're multi-platform, obviously they're not going to bake in a bunch of specific stuff for the DualSense. But even PlayStation exclusive games like God of War and Horizon, you might get some adaptive trigger stuff
for arrows, for pulling back the arrow.
If you're going to fire an arrow, or if you're going to open a door or something, and it uses the touchpad as just a map button basically. But yeah, they don't really do a whole lot with it, sadly. But it's just these Astro games are just really good examples of a game feeling really different to play than your standard platformer, because of what they're able to do with the controller itself. That just adds this a completely different layer onto it that you're not used to with any other game. And it definitely makes you appreciate the DualSense as you play this game. So it's a cool piece of tech that I wish Microsoft and Nintendo would sort of try to emulate.
Well, we never know with the Switch 2. I remember when I always think about this. Remember it was one of the technical demos. The Switch 2 the Switch had already been revealed, but it hadn't released yet, I don't think. And there was that technical demo where it was the main guy, and he had like a glass full of ice cubes, and he would shake it, and he'd be like, "Oh, I feel like I can feel the ice cubes." I don't know that they ever delivered on that promise, but maybe the Switch 2 will have ice cube technology.
Yeah, he would take the Joy-Con and rotate, and he's like, "Oh, you can feel the ball rolling around," and then he would shake it and be like, "Oh, it feels just like a glass with ice cubes in it as you're rattling it." And you're right. They never did quite make it feel the way they were describing.
Or even
the
if
DualSense gets much closer to that.
Even if it was possible, I don't think that any game took advantage of it. Like, you're right. I mean, even first-party games rarely took advantage of. What did they call it? Like Touch Plus or something, or Enhanced Sense or something like that.
It was something. Yeah, they had some buzzword for it.
I am very curious. I would love to experience Astro Bot.
Yes, you should. But also, I do hope that like Nintendo, even if they're the Joy-Cons themselves are like 2.0, they fixed the stick drift problem, but also they've made the haptics a little better on them. Even if they're like, okay, we have this new Pro controller as well that's like Pro Controller 2.0, and it is more like a DualSense, and that is like a step above what they're capable of delivering with the Joy-Cons. Like, I'm okay if there's a little bit of like, oh, clearly they've designed this game to take advantage of the Pro Controller, so you can play it with the Joy-Cons, but it's going to feel much better if you do it with the Pro Controller. I'm okay if that's the case, but I wonder if Nintendo thinks that way. So
we'll see.
The other thing I've played a bunch of this week is Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. I have completed the campaign. The game feels kind of like the sort of game that would be released on the 360 generation, and I don't just say that because the first game was released on the 360 generation. More broadly, this feels like a 360 release, where that generation, as much as we talked about it being sort of defined by these GTA style open world games, I think it was every bit as much defined by games like Call of Duty and Halo and Gears of War, where you expected the bundle to come with like an 8 to 12 hour campaign, a co-op, and some sort of multiplayer mode. And you sort of expected to have that bundle with the game. This game gives you that, and it sort of does feel like a complete package in that way, that the type of thing you would have gotten in the 360 generation. This isn't like a free-to-play Fortnite where you only get multiplayer, or you only get like a Helldivers cooperative mode, for $40. This is like a complete package that feels very fun to play. But yeah, I mentioned last week the co-op missions were one of the things I was really drawn to, and it is cool how like they are tied into like they're sort of running parallel to what you're doing in the campaign. And so you're just kind of getting to see the other side of what's happening from those story missions, which I thought was a cool way to sort of tie the co-op missions into the campaign. So it reminds me a lot of Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, which is one of the things that made me want to play this game. I'm always kind of looking to recapture the high of Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, but that game, so in Mass Effect 3, obviously you have like a 30-40 hour story mode where you're running around as Commander Shepard, but like obviously there's a huge war going on in that game, and so the way they sort of flesh it out is they're like, you're doing what Shepard has to do, but to give you a sense of like the war effort against the Reapers, you can play this co-op mode where you're actually going on these missions to like fight off the Reapers, or you're still dealing with the Geth and Cerberus and stuff like that. And so that was sort of a fun way to expand on what's happening in the story. The ones in Space Marine 2 feel like way more tied into the actual story, because like you'll even hear the main character that you're playing in the campaign talking to you as you're kind of radioing back and forth about what you're doing, which I thought was cool. And there are like 6 different classes that you can play as in both the co-op and the multiplayer, and they each have like fun different abilities and different loadouts that you're sort of unlocking as you go. And I think there's like a fun variety. So like one of them, you have this like jetpack where you jump way up in the air, and if you like hold a button, you can sort of aim while you're up there and shoot around, but you can also do this sort of dive down ground pound type of a thing where you do like area of effect damage. That's very fun to play, especially because you can get this giant hammer that you're swinging around. And so just having that sort of mix of like ranged plus melee combat is very fun to play. And then there's also a class called the Vanguard, which feels like the Vanguard class from Mass Effect 3, where basically you can hit a button and like sort of zip over to an enemy and hit them as you collide into them, and then you're close range, so you can get like a close range weapon or just start doing some melee. And the melee weapons in this game are very cool because you have obviously the big hammer, which is very fun to use, but you also have a chainsaw sword, which is very fun to use as well. But it also has like the Doom style executions. As you deal damage to some of the enemies, they will like start glowing red, and you can go do like a cool animation takedown type of a thing. But it's very cool because you're fighting the Tyranids a lot in the game, and you'll see them like, they'll be like, oh, here's a new wave coming, and it'll be like, I don't know, it's like you're seeing a bunch of aliens in a hive like coming at you, and you see them off in the distance, and you can start shooting at them and taking them out, but they will get to around where you are, and they'll start climbing up to get to where you are. And it's just crazy to see like the amount of them that they bring on the screen at any one time, and to be able to, shoot them from a distance. And each of them are like real enemies that will come to you if you don't shoot them from a distance. But then, once they get to you, you're doing all these like melee attacks, and you have different melee combos that you can do, which is very fun. But the co-op right now has some server problems where it's I think they're still working on some of the stability there. I did turn off.
Have you experienced that?
Well, yes, because I would play around and it would take like a long time to load back in or to join the server at the end of a mission or even going into a mission. But and then multiplayer, I couldn't play the multiplayer because it would sometimes not be able to find a game unless I turned off crossplay. So once I did that, it was fine. Oddly enough, I think it was the other way around for co-op, where I had better luck with crossplay turned on. I don't know. So they're working on like server stability for some of that stuff. But yeah, the co-op's very fun. And like I said, they have like their whole list of things that you can unlock and upgrade as you go. And to talk about another multiplayer game, when I played the beta for Concord, and I complained about how it never felt like you were unlocking anything, so it didn't feel like you were chasing anything. With this game, I feel like I'm unlocking stuff after every single match, and so it's very cool after a match to just run back to the little terminal that you interact with to like start doing some of the customization, and to see the new stuff that dropped after the last mission. So yeah, it's a very fun game that I think could rate fairly highly for me this year. But yeah, that's all I have to say about it. On that note, why don't you hit us with your parting wisdom?
You know, I went to that orchard last week. I talked about it. We had a bunch of apples. Apples are great. And I used to think that the best way to eat an apple was just straight, you know, a little chilled. But now I think if you have an apple and you don't know what to do with it, cut it up and put some like brown sugar and butter on it and just cook it for a little while. Make a little baked apple. And it's a great little treat.
Sounds like a great little treat.
That's my parting wisdom.
It's like you're making an apple pie, but without the crust.
Yeah, what gave me the idea, and this is maybe just a known thing, but there's that great show, Joe Pera Talks to You about stuff. And I think it's his Fall Drive episode, which I think is in the first season. At the end of it, he makes a baked apple in tinfoil on like a grill. And it looked really, really good. And so I decided to do that. And it was good. I didn't use a grill, though.
Sounds good. On that note, go ahead and follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter at Starside Cafe. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.